When it comes to interactive story games, most of the time I don't even give these games a chance. Every time I'm watching an event and see a trailer for these type of games, I just tune out immediately. However, the first Life is Strange is the title that made me a fan of these style of games. Having played this years ago, I only remembered bits and pieces about the story, and with Life is Strange Double Exposure releasing in October, I thought it'd be a great time to replay what's arguably one of the greatest point and click games of all time, and I'm so glad I did. If you have played any sort of point and click game before, then you already know how the gameplay operates. It's pretty bare bones and there isn't a whole lot to it since the main attraction of this title is the story. However, I did want to share my thoughts about how this level of gameplay was executed, especially given the fact you have superpowers. So without going into the story much, your character Max has the ability to rewind time at any moment. When I first discovered this in game, I was really skeptical, like I was waiting for the pin to drop and deliver the drawbacks of using it. But to my surprise, there was none. Being able to rewind pretty much at any moment in time is such a cool concept to implement into a game, and I think Dot Nod Entertainment did an excellent job. Throughout the game, there's so many moments where you can rewind time, it's actually ridiculous. But what's so great about this is that it doesn't require much to execute. Like there isn't a whole bunch of external conditions that you have to meet in order to rewind, you just simply press a button. This makes the entire gimmick very addicting and adds to the overall replayability. As expected with most story games, this game has a ton of choices that decide crucial moments within the plot. But unlike those other games, Life is Strange allows you to see the impact of each choice, instead of being stuck with the outcome of your decision. I thought this was really cool as it allowed you to create the story based on how you wanted it to go. So if you chose option A and somebody died but you didn't want them to, you could choose option B and have them live instead. Not all of these choices are always that dramatic, but you get the point. What's even better is using the rewind during the simple interactions. Of course, everyone's focus is on the major decisions, but using your rewind powers to do stupid stuff during the game is just as fun. For example, when you're inside a diner trying to get the keys to an RV, you can choose multiple options that just ruin this guy's day.
You eat like a pig. Try the floor.
I was eating those beans. Are you fucking insane? I was eating those beans! Ugh. Ugh.
Outside of the rewind, the majority of the gameplay consists of walking from place to place and interacting with things in the area. This could be people, objects, animals, etc. Regardless, what I realized is that reading all the notes and files adds so much to the overall story. The amount of information that you can piece together from just being a little nosy is actually insane. So when you're playing this game, the next time you're in someone's dorm, open that laptop or move that couch, because what you'll find will definitely be worth it. Even though the gameplay for this game is so minimal, the things you're interacting with are actually more exciting than you might think. There's so many scenarios where you're doing more than just pressing a button to talk to someone. Many times you're grabbing weapons, objects, or other things in order to do what's required at that specific moment. To put it simply, there is a lot of talking, as expected, but what's sprinkled in between are some exciting moments that keep the gameplay loop somewhat fresh. I thought it was cool for Max to have a cell phone and a diary, as it made everything in Arcadia Bay seem more connected and real. So many times after going through a certain part of the story, Max would receive a text message from her family or friends, just adding to the immersion. Sometimes this would be totally unrelated to the story, other times it would be in reference to an event that recently happened. Either way, it was fun to scroll through your phone and interact with everyone. The diary was a great way for us to dive into Max's mind outside of her narrations throughout the story. I liked how you were able to see what she's thinking and what her mindset was, especially at the start of the game. On top of that, you're able to see character bios and understand a bit more about the main cast of characters that you interact with. It doesn't seem like this is a big deal, but with a story game that throws a lot at you over 5 episodes, having a way to keep track of who is who and what is what helped me comprehend exactly what was going on. The most underrated aspect of this game by far is just the mystery of everything. No matter if you're in the middle of a story section or doing something mundane like looking for an item, just using your brain to piece everything together is so much fun. This game is not hard at all, but you can't just sleepwalk your way through it and think you'll finish it. There's too many clues and things that you need to pay attention to in order for you to get through the episode. To nobody's surprise, the gameplay isn't perfect. Sometimes I felt like what we were doing was a little boring, but I guess in a story game that's kind of expected. But sometimes what the game asked us to do just felt a little dumb, especially when it didn't require the use of the rewind powers. Add on the fact that you don't move very fast, and sometimes certain moments of the game can feel like an actual chore to get through. Another issue that I encountered may have just pertained to the remastered version, but I did encounter a bug where Max was like shimmering. This only happened in the last 2 episodes, but it was kinda weird to see her model acting up while everybody else was perfect. It's like she was just sitting there shaking and everybody else was perfectly fine. Thankfully this didn't happen too often, but when it did, it was definitely jarring. There is a lot to like with this gameplay and not much to hate. I would say that the biggest issue is that it gets boring at times, but due to the type of game that this is, it's not even worth considering that as an actual criticism. Because if you buy this game, then you probably have an idea of what you're getting yourself into. Regardless, the gameplay for Life is Strange is very simple, but does a good job at keeping you entertained even though you're doing the same things over and over. The story for Life is Strange is the reason why this game has the reputation that it does. On the surface, it seems like a simple story about a girl at school, but it's actually so much more than that. Like I mentioned before, you have the rewind power, but how you get it will not be how you expect. But even still, it all made sense. The writers did such a great job at slowly introducing us to other characters while weaving in different issues. As seen in the promotional material for the game, there's a giant tornado that's going to destroy the city, and going into it, you would think that would be the main area of focus, but actually, it's put off for a while. The issue is acknowledged, but there's so much going on in between that it kinda gets brushed aside. Then at the worst possible moment, that issue gets pushed to the forefront and you're faced to deal with it head on. The interactions between the characters in the story is what makes every decision so important. I liked how the story has you make choices that aren't always serious, but leave you with the small thought like, man, what if this was actually important? You know what? Let me go back and redo that. Having so many moments like these make you pay attention to the side characters just as much as the main ones because they are just as important. I think what makes this plot so good is that the plot twists are hard to predict. Even with me reading almost everything in sight, I still wonder how anybody would be able to piece this together by playing this for the first time. There's things hidden in plain sight, but I don't understand how someone could figure out a person's true motives before they're actually revealed. It's like you think you know what's going on, and then something else happens that make you second guess your initial assumptions. If you have never played a Life is Strange game before and are interested in this, then I recommend playing Life is Strange Before the Storm, as it's a prequel to this game and adds so much to this story. When I first played this game, Before the Storm hadn't been released, so playing it first wasn't possible, but now I was able to do so, and I'm so happy I did. Going through Life is Strange with the knowledge of everything that happens in the prequel made it easier to understand the events going on in Arcadia Bay, what the area was like, and who certain characters were. If you're like me, by the time you get through the second or third episode, you'll get tired of hearing about Rachel Amber. Every other scene her name is mentioned, and after about the 10th time it gets kinda ridiculous. But more importantly, this game never goes into who she really was, what she looked like, among other things. So by playing the prequel, you're able to see Rachel and understand why she acted the way she did, and see her relationship with Chloe in real time. This may not appear as a necessity, but if you skip the prequel, then it's like you're cutting out a piece of the overall experience for this game. What I loved is that this story is unrealistic but more grounded than you might think. For a game where the main character has superpowers, you wouldn't think that bad things happen to people, but they definitely do. You would be surprised by what would happen by just doing or not doing the simplest of things. Even something like throwing a bone or opening a window can be the difference between life and death for someone or something. Now, I've been avoiding spoilers, but I've got to give my thoughts on the ending and the choice that I made. So if you want to skip to my score, I'm letting you know now that we're going into spoilers. So here we go. So at the end of episode 5, you have to make the choice to either sacrifice Chloe and save Arcadia Bay, or sacrifice Arcadia Bay and save Chloe. Upon my first playthrough, I thought this decision was really hard, because Chloe's your best friend and I felt bad for her because of everything she went through. But this time around, that decision was really easy. I chose to sacrifice Chloe without hesitation. Now before you look at me like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? Let me explain. So if you played Before the Storm, you know this, but Chloe used to be wholesome and not rebellious before her dad passed away. After he passed, she completely changed. She does drugs, got kicked out of school, doesn't get along with her parents, and overall is just a mess. Even though she's our best friend, why would I sacrifice an entire town to save one girl who doesn't want to save herself? To add more to this, there were so many times that Chloe died or was about to die, and if it wasn't for Max, she would have bit the dust. In the beginning in the bathroom with Nathan, on the train tracks, in the junkyard with Jefferson, you get the point. But if you read between the lines, it's like fate was trying to tell you that she wasn't destined to live. Like no matter what Max did, Chloe wasn't going to make it. And if you want me to be really honest, why was she interacting with Nathan on school grounds in the first place? I get why, cause she needed the money, but if you go to campus, where you're suspended, to find a psychopath to get money to pay your drug dealer, how do you think that's gonna go? Nonetheless, that was my reasoning behind my decision. It sucks, but there was no way I was killing all those innocent people in Arcadia Bay just to save her. And of course I'm not killing Pompidou. Look at him. This story is one that will stick with me forever. The way everything was woven throughout the episodes up until the finale was done so well. Even if I don't play this game again for years to come, I'll always remember my time going through this story. I think Dot Nod really outdid themselves on this plot. Overall, Life is Strange is an absolute fantastic game to play. For an interactive story game, this is about as good as it gets. The gameplay is simple and may get boring at times, and I think how much you enjoy this game depends on your ability to latch onto the story and get invested. If you don't care much about what's going on, you're not going to like this game at all. On the other hand, if you can get invested, then this game will take you on a hell of a ride. For those reasons, I'm going to give this game a 9.5. Even 9 years later, Life is Strange is just as memorable as it was before. The combination of story and atmosphere makes this a perfect game to play when you want to escape from the real world. How Max's rewind powers were implemented made tedious gameplay more exciting and unpredictable. Now that I've replayed both Life is Strange 1 and Before the Storm, I can't wait for Double Exposure to drop so we can continue with Max's journey. If you played Life is Strange, what did you think about it? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, or check out one of my other reviews right here.